There we go. That'll do. So, I won't be able to interact very much. But that's fine. Hopefully you can hear me. I'll wait until people start piling in. I'll have to do a little bit of creative editing to get the opening just right. I think I'll start by reading everybody's birthday wishes, just to start the show. It is my birthday after all, so I'll get her going that way. I guess we'll start here. Joel Shallow. Maybe I'll try to tell a story. I don't remember the story behind why Joel Shallow calls me Grandy, but I think it probably has to do with the fact that I'm old. That's a new one, actually, Joel. You're pretty creative. Good job. Barry Simpson. Barry was once immortalized by punching John Anderson in the arm so hard that he drove his Ford Fiesta completely off of I-25, through a cow field, and into a bale of hay. Just one bale, and so everything was fine, but it was an interesting road trip to Fort Lewis nonetheless. So, somebody in Barry Simpson's family, one of the kiddos, has a birthday today. Keith Whiteley, Argus manager, event manager extraordinaire, said happy birthday. Heather says happy birthday. Steve Fanning of the Dick Fanning clan, and a legend in his own right, Kadet football player, he says happy birthday. Pat 40, check this out. Deal with that. Pat 40 wished me a happy birthday. Huh? What's up? What's up? Dave Bruning. Look at this. This is pretty cool. Nobody else did this. How come Bruning's the only one doing this? Have a stellar birthday. Oh, I get it. It's like kind of interstellar. Are these planets? That's pretty cool. I'm reading birthday messages, and then we're going to talk about Kadet football a little bit later. I don't even know who's here. I was hoping to interact, but you can't do that unless I'm just staying on the screen that I'm on. So I'm just going to try to make this entertaining. Marianne Miller. So I went to school with a Marianne Miller. This is not that Marianne Miller. This is Marianne Miller from the Park Ridge area. She's an old family friend. I didn't mean to use the word old. I mean, we're all old at this point. But she has been a friend of the family for decades. And she used to take care of me when I was breaking out of the house and walking up and down Toohey Avenue near Chicago. Brent Murphy, the immortal Brent Murphy. Brent Murphy, and one of these days, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be Brent Murphy, and it's going to be cockroaches. Brent Murphy and cockroaches will still be alive on planet Earth. Everything else will have melted, and that'll be it. He'll be all by himself with a bunch of cockroaches. Kenny Heward, Rampart Ram, says happy birthday. Kerry Carnahan, Kadet extraordinaire, also very skilled in the event management field, says happy birthday. Kate Carey, Argus extraordinaire, she says happy birthday. Eileen Stevens, Tammy Brink, Jerry Lynn, good to see you, Jerry. I got 78 of these. I'm going to breeze through these, though. Christy Newton from our Academy says hi. Malcolm Wagner, one of the greatest Meyer front-end talents of all time. I'm not even sure if he's still at Meyer, but dude could handle some pressure-packed situations. Awesome guy. Jill Johnson says hi. Walt Harder. Walt Harder came to my door in like 1980. And he knocked on the door and he had a basketball. And it looked like he'd been running for a half an hour. Knocked on the door and I opened the door and he said, "Hey, could I get a piece of water?" So to this day, I'm not sure if he was going to originally ask for a piece of pizza and decided that that was like too greedy and decided to change it to water. But that actually happened. He was probably 14, I was probably 11 or 12. And came to my door and asked me for a piece of water. And I think if I remember correctly, I went and I grabbed an ice cube because that would be a piece of water, right? Greg Busby, Kadet Extraordinaire, says, "Happy birthday, Dancing Bear." He should have said Dancing Bear number 2 because Steve Faust is the original Dancing Bear. I heard a story from somebody that there was a Dancing Bear before both of us. But I think it's cool that we're named after a Grateful Dead, Grateful Dead cartoon character, essentially. Tammy says, Tammy just texted me. I can't answer it though because that'll cut the feed. Jerry Ann Allen, wonderful lady. She says, happy birthday. Thank you, Jerry Ann. Kelly Moore Mattingly says happy birthday. Thank you. Lisa Rell. I've known Lisa since... It's interesting. I just realized that Lisa Rell and Lisa Renna, they both sound like it's one name. Lisa Renna, Lisa Rell. Lisa Rell. Lisa, you should... Your last name is no longer Rell, but you could name your next daughter because I'm sure you're still active, right? You could name your grandbaby, maybe. You can name her Lisa Rell. Like one word. That's a stupid idea. Forget I said that. Bonnie Spillman Johnson says, happy birthday. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you. Larry Peterson, one of the greatest Americans of all time, Larry Peterson, says, happy birthday. Thank you, Larry. Flew aboard the gunship C-130s in the Vietnam War. Fantastic American. Diane Compton Bunty, one of my sister's high school best friends. She says, happy birthday. She says, have a good one, Randy. Do you know I knew you when you were a little boy, which I still am. You were about 3 when I started hanging around with your sister. We sure are grown up now, aren't we? And I totally remember Diane, and I told her so. I said I remember her smile and her laugh because they were both very specific too, or something. Bill Bernice, one of the greatest hockey players of all time. It's like Gretzky, Lemieux, and Bill Bernice, I think. And Randy Proch's in there somewhere. He says, happy birthday, my man Randy. Here's a picture of all of us at the K-Dome in probably 2009, I want to say. Barry Simpson's rocking the CU Buffalo t-shirt. There's a little foreshadowing for you because we're about to talk a little bit about CU football. Believe it or not, it's going to come up. And so there's the whole, I'm not sure I can recognize everybody here, but Frankowski and Sue Mankemeyer and myself and Warren Ehrman and Rachel Peterson and everybody. Some of us are wearing sunglasses and I'm drawing a complete blank. So, my bad. Is that all? That's not all of the birthday wishes. Look, there's 66 more. Huh? 66? What's up with that? Let me breeze through these so we can get the show going. Gene Schlosser, one of the greatest Argus security managers of all time, says happy birthday. Becky Rydell, happy birthday. Thank you, Becky. Lori Till of Meyer fame. Stacy Chambers says happy birthday. Leo! Nadalski from Park Ridge says happy birthday. Jerry Hurley, Tina Z, Danny Weller. What's up, Danny? Trey Hagan says happy birthday. Janelle K. Brierly says happy birthday. Jeanette Ritz, whose husband was part of the TV show Homicide Hunter. John Green says happy birthday. If you've ever seen Homicide Hunter, it's all about a Colorado Springs homicide detective. And so I moved to Wisconsin, and I'm flipping through the channels, and there's a shot of Garden of the Gods and Pikes Peak, and then all of a sudden there's a dead body. And for 4 years, I'm obsessed, because this homicide detective was working in Colorado Springs between 75 and late 80s maybe, and solved like 400 homicides, like some kind of a record, and they made a TV show about him. And so they would recreate everything, including like there would be a murder at like a college frat party or something. And so, not that I went to any frat parties, except for one time at CSU, I accidentally went to one. But I'm always looking for myself, because somebody, even though it's actors and they're staging it, somebody has to be playing me. And so I'm wondering which one that is. I don't remember any murders, but I remember murdering myself with beer. So, yeah. Let's see here. 54 more. Is this too many? I don't know. I'm gonna go through these. Wait. How did this? Tom Anderson says happy birthday. Andrew Marshall, one of the greatest hockey minds and the son of the late, great Wayne Marshall. Carlos Harris from Argus. Matt Blakey, one of the few quarterbacks in Air Academy history that has a 1,000 completion percentage and a QB rating that's got to be 150 at Air Academy. He threw one pass against Rampart, completed it for I think 9 yards, so I didn't quite get a first down, but that's Matt Blakey. Ed Zawatsky used to play hockey for Colorado College. He says happy birthday. Dave Oliver played on both the football team and the lacrosse team at Air Academy. Todd Lopez says, I believe Todd Lopez is definitely the one from Rampart. So, okay. Michael Cooter, Air Academy internet security expert, says, happy birthday, my man. Terry Reyes, class of, I want to say, 83, pretty sure, says happy birthday. Mark Humphrey says happy birthday. He never got in trouble, Mark Humphrey, pretty sure. Steve Rishling, one of the greatest science teachers of all time on the planet, says happy birthday. Tom Vasco, whose uncle is Moose Vasco, or was the late great Moose Vasco. And that pretty much covers it. So if I didn't get to yours, just know that I appreciate it. I'm already getting dry mouth, so I don't know who's watching. It's not that I don't care. It's just that I'm not going to really focus on who's watching. I want to be interactive, though. So if you're watching, please post to the feed in the top here. Just post a message, and I'm going to come back. Andrew Garton said, well, happy birthday. So I'm hoping that you're watching the feed. But do that for me so we can make this interactive later. Eventually I'll set this up so that it will be straight up interactive. The only time we can really do that where I'm comfortable with it is if I get monetized on YouTube. And so that's what I need your help with, is I need 1,000 subscribers on my channel, You and Whose Arme on YouTube. But that's for another day. I'm not going to dwell on that too much. I need to go to the newspaper archives because we're going to start talking about Kadet football. And actually, I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start here. And I don't know I know about where I'm going to start, but I don't know where I'm going to end up in the first minute. Let me close some of this shit. Posts that I've seen. So here's me at the Air Academy practice field. We're in the same jersey. I need to find the post, the thread from a couple years ago. There's our favorite mascot. So here we go. The all-time Air Academy Kadet Football Top 10. So here's the thread that was started on the Air Academy High School alumni site, the Facebook page, whatever. That it came after a brief discussion about cadet football that I was a part of. And I got obsessed, and I started wondering, with a lot of feedback behind the scenes, about who was the best team in Air Academy history. And so, Air Academy football. So, Air Academy football, it started in 62, right? That was the first year. It actually started in 61, I believe. No, I'm wrong. 63, I believe, was the first graduating class. 63. So it had been the fall of 62. And I guess, like everybody that was going to Palmer, and maybe the old Monument High School, I don't think it was called Lewis Palmer, they started getting bused to the new Air Academy High School that was on the Air Force Academy, that was built, I believe, with the cooperation of the Air Force Academy, the Air Force. And all the new housing, hey, I'm doing a show. All the new, the kids that were in housing, no! Come here. All the kids that were in Air Force housing went to the school. And the very first year, bang, right out of the box, state championship. I don't know anything about that team. I guess we can look it up because I'm going to go to the archives here in a minute. But I don't know very much about that team, although it was it had to have been some kind of a fluke. I don't know if they were in a certain size class back then, single A, whatever, because it was a new school or something. I don't know how that works. But, so here's the rankings. And I tried to explain some of this, and then we got into a discussion. Apparently, according to the masses, the 76 Air Academy football team is at least the favorite. Head-to-head, I don't know. Probably the 80, 81 teams might have beaten. And here I've got 77 to 78 was right there. So if you lump these first four together, I think you've got a battle. Like if it was the semifinals and the finals between these four teams, I don't know who would win. Maybe we should try. We should do that. I don't know if we can computerize it, but it's worth a shot. Hey, I've got a comment from Carrie Carnahan. She just liked it. Good job, Carrie. Anyway, so 76 came on top based on feedback. And I know that Barnett was first head coach in 74. I believe he was assistant coach in 72 and 73. And then he was named head coach in 74. And so the first Barney's Bunch was in 74. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if somebody can correct me on this, he started by running a version of the veer offense, a little bit of an option offense. He had smaller kids. He had fast kids. And he had smart kids. And so the same way that Ken Hatfield and Fisher DeBerry took that combination, smaller kids, smarter kids, and ran the triple option. That's kind of what Barnett did. I don't remember it looking like the triple option, down the line. I don't remember it looking like that, but I don't remember it looking anyway, really. But I believe the quarterbacks, the Shermans and Vogel, I know they were really, really good athletes. They weren't just drop back passers, and so I believe that to be true. I think it was like a veer offense. So 74, 75, 76 came right out of the chute and started like cracking skulls with Mitchell and Wasson, and made it to the state playoffs later in the decade. And I think by 77, according to I don't remember researching this very well, but by 77, they were consistently, from 77 to 81, the best team in Colorado Springs, them and Mitchell. It was always a dogfight, them, Mitchell, Wasson, for the South Central League. And I know in 80 and 81, they went all the way to the state semifinals. And I think it was in 81 where we had a kicker break his leg on a field goal attempt. And guess what happened? That was in the quarterfinals. I believe this is the way it happened. And guess what? State semifinals with, I want to say Mullen. I'm probably going to get some of this wrong. We lost 14-12 because we missed 2 extra points. So my memory of Barnett and Air Academy, I moved to Colorado Springs in 75. And I started hanging out with these kids, Tom Braidwood and Joe Walk. And Joe had an older sister named Tony that was several years ahead of him, 3 or 4. And so by the time we got to like 6th grade, me and Tom and Joe we ended up at the K-Dome watching Air Academy football. And it was packed. And there would be like a kind of a parade, especially for homecoming, through Rock Rimmon on game day, where everybody would go at once, and everybody would paint their cars, and everybody would have soap on their windows, and everybody would be screaming their nuts off. And one of the coolest memories is there's a train trestle on the Air Force Academy where the train goes over the extension of Academy Boulevard as it goes on to base. And so every week somebody would hang a banner up there. Go Cadets, beat Wasson, crush Mitchell, whatever. And so we would always look for the banner when we went to games. So probably 77, 78 might have been the first year that I went with Joe and Tom. And I remember clearly sitting in the front, if it wasn't the front rows, the first couple of rows of the K-Dome in the bleachers, and watching Gary Barnett coach football. It was amazing because the energy on that sideline, you had Gary Barnett, you had Norm Fleischauer, who actually was my teacher in the 5th grade, and he was a lineman at Colorado College, big guy, 6'4", 240, big Viking-looking guy, Norm Fleischauer. And so he was a really good athlete. Dick Fanning, don't know if he was varsity the entire run all the way up to 80-81, but Dom Lupino was, and so he'd be on the sideline. And the energy on that sideline, I remember clearly. They would send in plays with a receiver or a tight end, and Barnett would have that kid by the face mask, and they would be running a play, and Barnett's already got the next guy. He's not letting him go, so he can tell them what play they're gonna run in. So if they got a 2nd and 3 or a 1st and 10 or whatever, he would immediately get in that kid's face and say, "Here's your play." And he would send him out there with his face mask. He would like throw him like a frisbee out there. But the energy that the kid wasn't scared. He was like a Rottweiler. And so on a leash. And then all the players right there on the sidelines are just like bugging out. And so then you had the tearaway jerseys. So they were just invented, I think, in the late 70s. And that's what impressed me by Barnett. He's like, tearaway jerseys, hell yeah, order me like 200 of them. And so his tailback, his quarterback, his fullback, his receivers, anybody that ever had the ball was wearing a tearaway jersey. And so you had the guy coming off the field because there's another one bringing the play on. Then you had at least one guy that needed a new jersey because those jerseys, they were tearaway jerseys. They came right off of you. And so they had this huge box of tearaway jerseys for each player, and they would just have to pull one out for number 32 or whatever. And so the sideline was just this teeming like a hornet's nest of just energy, and I thought it was the coolest fucking thing. I don't know if I really was that the shit going on in the field was amazing too, but I was just ready to watch what Barnett was going to do next. I mean, he was yelling and was being positive for the most part, but he was being serious. He was like, "Here's what's going on for this play." And the kids were just eating it up. So I was impressed by that. And so I didn't get to go into the really big games. I don't know. I was probably distracted by being a fucking 12-year-old or 13-year-old, whatever. But I missed going to what was essentially, if I remember correctly, I'm going to screw this one up. It was a game, I think, against Wasson. It's in here somewhere. Let me pull it up so I don't screw it up. So here's some of the commentary. Let's go over some of this so I don't completely fuck this up. We got a guy by the name of Dave Howard that weighed in on some of this. So it was the 63 Cadets. I think this ends up being a discussion. So they beat La Junta for the state championship. So it was the 62-63 team. We've got Chad Heinley that weighed in on the 98 team. We'll get to that in a second. So I'm trying to find the conversation. Ivor Davis. Here it is. This is the game. The class of 78. So this is the game that I'm talking about, where destiny foiled by the ref. There was a goal line play where Ken Harlan either had or didn't have a touchdown against Wasson at Gary Berry Stadium, and apparently Wasson won the right to go to the playoffs against Creek that year. But there's no doubt that we were better than Wasson, so it doesn't really matter. I was an official too, by the way, so I'm not exactly a referee hater. In fact, I once refereed a Rampart Air Academy football game. I don't know if a lot of my friends know that, but I'll try to get to that. I got a billion things to talk about. So I guess that was like a landmark football game when here's Steve Sweeney, who says, "I remember watching the Wasson game as a sophomore. Fans were going wild over the last-minute go-ahead touchdown. The special teams lined up for the point after, and then it was mysteriously called not a TD. I think I remember the principal out there arguing with the refs. We all left brokenhearted because the team had heart, and the entire school was so excited about our tremendous football team. I lived like right across the street from Steve Swinney, so I remember hanging out with those guys and Scott Gosler during those years, and so I really looked up to all those older guys, and that just made the whole mystique of the Barnett football team even bigger. Because here's some guy. I think Gosler did play for Barnett, I think, but the guys that I looked up to, most of them didn't play on the team, and I thought they were badasses. So I'm like, well, then who the hell's playing on the football team if these guys aren't? But I was impressionable, but for good reason. Here's Max Stuckey. So probably the best Air Academy historian that there is, because he worked there for, I think, 712 years. So Max concurs on all of your picks, which is probably a mistake. But his top choices, the 1976 team was number one. Their sophomore team of 74-75 was coached by Rock Campbell, Dick Fanning, and yours truly. Not only was the team undefeated, but all of the opponents wish they could have stayed in bed. I think they shut out everybody except for one team. Canyon City, maybe, and Fanning screwed that up. And here's where I weighed in on having officiated football for 10 years. And I even I officiated a game where Dick Fanning was the JV coach, and Dick Fanning tried to get in my ear, and it was a little bit awkward because I love Dick Fanning to death, but he didn't know the rules on a particular play, and I think he knew that I knew that he didn't know the rules, but he was going to get in my ear anyway. It had to do with loss of down on a loose ball play, something, and he was pissed about it, and nothing I could do, so except get the call right. So let's see. Jeff King and Pat Rice baseball. So Barbara Leonard says, what about Tony Blanchard, class of 67? So there is a little bit, a snippet, a tidbit from before Barnett. Doc Blanchard's son played at Air Academy. Let's see. Oh, Brian Bullard. So then we started talking about Brian Bullard, who was, I believe, on the 80-81 team and ended up playing at Air Force and ended up having an award named for him because he was such a badass. But all of this boils down to the fact that Gary Barnett was one of the best motivators of all time. And we're going to start getting into that here in a minute, because Barnett just coached at Air Academy for about 6 years, and it seems like 20. But what he did after Air Academy was just staggering. And so I want to flip through this. We talked a little bit about the Darian Latimer team, who shattered the state record in the mid to late 90s. And of course, there was a team that I was on in 84 that was the first team that came back and actually won the Southern League Championship. We were called Phoenix Rising because after Barnett left, it was a struggle. We split with Rampart. Barnett left. We went 3-7 and 4-6 or something. We had really good athletes, but I remember we had a shitload of injuries. I can still see kids on crutches and we had McAllister, who I loved to death, and Somerville, sophomores in the backfield. That was controversial, But if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have won the 84 league title. And so I think what Mike Roof did when he came in after Barnett was he said, I'm going to have to build this team. I'm going to have some athletes with some experience. And he named McAllister the starting quarterback over, I want to say, was it one of the Rice kids? I don't know. I need to take a break. Hold on a second. 1 second. I'm running myself ragged here. I'm telling you, though, I get chills when I talk about this shit, though, because here's the Kadettes right here doing the fight song. Do we have some volume? Can you hear that, or did I fuck up the volume? There it is. All right, escape. So, let me go back to the list, just so I can complete that. Hey, the fuck? How did this end up being at the top? Oh, I got it. Okay, there we go. Stop changing Facebook. It was fine 10 years ago. I can't navigate you anymore. It's like being in a marriage where all of a sudden you just don't know that person anymore. Facebook, I don't know you anymore. You're different. You're just not the same. I don't know how to navigate you. It's like you're not there for me anymore. Anyway. So, again, 76, the People's Choice. Again, you could throw a blanket over these top four. I kind of think that the 80-81 team head-to-head would probably, or 78. See, I can't. The 87 team was the team with T.D. Paxson, Alex Kleckner. I believe Fanning was on that team. Had a really good defense. And that was the team where everybody was graduating in 88. I remember we would do assemblies and we would try to out-cheer each other. And so we would go 85, 85, 80, 80, 80, 85. And then 86 would go. And 85, like, of course, blew the roof off of the place. Then 86 would go, and they were okay. 86, 86, 80, 80, 86. You know the cheer I'm talking about at assemblies? Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, 87 would go, and they were kind of handicapped because it's hard to throw that extra syllable in there. 87, 87, 80, 80, 80, 87. And so you can't really bark that out. But then 88 would go, and it was a little bit higher pitched because a lot of these kids hadn't gone through puberty yet. But those motherfuckers were blowing. And, I mean, it was like, whoa. Holy shit. So, they had a lot of spirit. And I was going over some old rosters. And the 88 team actually, there was not a lot of players on the freshman team in 84. Then there wasn't a lot of same players on the 84 freshman team. And then you look at the 87 roster, and it's like almost all different. T.D. Paxson wasn't there. Alex Kleckner was, I think, but I think he wasn't in the team photo for 84 on the freshman team, or was it on the roster? Maybe he didn't play that year, but he sure as hell played in 87. And they had some plays where it was like a possession offense where T.D. Paxson would roll out and Alex Kleckner would hook, and TD would hit him, And Alex had the same move every time, but you couldn't stop him. He would catch the ball, he would hook, catch the ball, and he would know where this guy was, whoever was covering him. And so if he was able to beat him to his right and go left towards the sideline, he was gone. And then he would go inside with it. He would go to the post with it. But he always, that team was spectacular. I watched that team go all the way to Dutch Clark Stadium against Pueblo Centennial, and I don't remember the circumstances, but it was like a late field goal. It was like a 29-yard field goal with no time left, and they had shut Centennial down the whole way, and ended up losing just on a late drive. I don't know. It was like a 12 to 10 game or something. Anyway, so 87, there's that 87 team. 79 is essentially just once removed from all the Barnett teams. There's the Latimer, Solomon, Southward teams of 92 through 94. You could kind of throw a blanket over all of those. And if I'm not mistaken, Roof was he still coaching those teams? Or was it Kevin Sherman at that time? See? No, Sherman was like in the mid to late aughts. It says right here, 2008. So there's the top 10. But here's the thing. Again, Barnett. So Barnett, I can go one of two ways with this. Barnett leaves their academy to go to Fort Lewis. Mostly probably because they're splitting schools. And so that's a good time for Barnett to say, hey, I remember thinking, why is this guy coaching high school football? And I was 13. So why was I thinking that? That's like kind of a little bit of another level. Like, why would a 13-year-old give a shit? Why? I mean, I was thinking that. I was like, what's this guy doing here? I mean, it's a high school stadium, right? And I knew a little bit about sports, so I was like, what's going on? This guy is out of his, he's some other level. So anyway, Barnett goes to Fort Lewis, and I'm depressed because I tried out for 9th grade for C Squad at our academy. I was injured. I was out of shape. I was intimidated. I didn't think I was any good. I really wanted to play, but I didn't want to just be third string and get my ass kicked. And so I quit. I quit C Squad. But I went to every game. I mean, we would go to Gary Berry Stadium and watch that team just run. I mean, Nelson Montefiore and we had, damn it, I'm going to forget names. There was a kid, curly head kid, that would have gone to Rampart, instead moved to I'm going to fuck all this up, but I wish I remembered some of the old names. Hold on a second. Don't go anywhere. Swear to God. This is important. Here. I'll be right back. Look at the Coke can. Hang on. I'm coming. All right. I don't know why the hell I didn't do this to begin with. Goddamn yearbook. That's what it's for, right? So 81-82 football. Here's the team that would have been varsity starting seniors in 84 if the schools didn't split. This is important. So I'm talking about Nelson Montefiore. I'm talking about Rich Mazingo. So he would be the perfect athlete for like a veer option team if Barnett was still coaching, because awesome athlete. Ended up being an even better baseball player. But the C Squad team, they were undefeated. They beat Watson 14-0. They beat Parker 14-6. They beat Palmer 35-0. They beat the Wasson Gray team 28-0. They beat Coronado 34-16. I remember that game vividly. It was at Gary Berry Stadium, and it wasn't even close. They beat the Wasson Red team 32-0. They beat Mitchell 19-0. They beat Isaac Newton out at Denver 28-0. They beat Doherty 26-13, and they beat Canyon City 25-8. And those games weren't even close because, if I remember correctly, a lot of kids got to play in those games. I remember Lister would play quarterback here and there. Mazingo would play quarterback here and there. Here's John Armstrong. Wait. Can you see that? I don't know. But he was a great athlete, number 24. I think 12 might be Kirk Lister. Somerville, wearing the 44, it looks like. Jim Allen, who I think either went to Rampart or moved. But he was a kicker. But here's a couple of quotes. Coach Runyon, first undefeated C Squad team since 77. Cadets were clearly superior on defense. The offensive line is clearly superior to any offensive line I've ever seen or played against. Blah, blah, blah. So that would have been a team. And they look at this team photo. Wait. See that? There's like 40 kids there. There's got to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 50 kids there. There's 50 kids there. I can see Derricott. Stands out. Anyway, so where was I? So Barnett leaves because he's not going to be able to coach a team like that. He's going to get some like half version of that, which is fair, totally fair, because he's Gary Barnett. So he goes to Fort Lewis. And I remember thinking, okay, this guy's at Fort Lewis now. Where the fuck is Fort Lewis? But that makes sense because I just got done thinking that this guy needs to be coaching college or NFL or something. So I'm going into high school and I'm trying to figure out who I am, right? Is Randy like a troublemaker? Or is Randy going to be a good boy on the football team and get the cheerleader and all that other shit? Or is he going to get the bad girl because he's a shoplifter or some bullshit? I was never a shoplifter, but I actually had that happen where I was running around with some kids that were trying to get attention by doing some crazy shit. Not really crazy, but I remember I got into a tiny bit of trouble. Some of it wasn't even my fault. I broke a pen on a bus. And it got all over my hands, and I was just like, fuck this pen. And I wiped ink everywhere. I was like, get this shit off of my hands. And I got in trouble, and I went into Jim Barron's office. He was the dean of students. And I go in there, and the bus driver's in there. And I'm like, oh, shit, what the fuck is this? So the bus driver proceeds to tell Jim that I did it on purpose, which is kind of the part about me trying to get the ink off of my hands is true. And yeah, I probably should have just gone like this until the bus stopped and then walked to the bathroom like this, I guess. But I didn't. I got ink everywhere. And so she was pissed off. And I told Barron, I was like, I had ink on my hands. I was like just touching things, trying to I didn't realize what I was doing. I'm a stupid 13-year-old. Come on. And no, I was like 15. And so Barron dismisses the bus driver and waits till she leaves, and he goes, "So, you can play football next year, or what? What's up?" This is like at the end of the school year in 82. And so we'd be going into the fall of must have been May of 83, all right? And so we'd be going into the football season, 83 football season. And so I'm like, I think I am, actually, because I'd been talking to Andrew Conley about it. Anyway, we've been talking about if we could, I was lifting weights with Dan Pearson and Andrew Conley. And I actually talked about it. So I told Jim Barron, I said, yeah, I think I'm going to play football. And so he goes, okay, good. He goes, get out of here. Play football. And so I guess I was like, okay, I guess I'm not in trouble. And so, but if you go back 1 year to the beginning of that year, now I remember part of my hooliganism included Air Academy Football. Me and a couple other kids who I won't name. I'll name a kid that I almost got in trouble. Jonovan. I almost got Jonovan in trouble because we snuck a flask of bourbon into the game. We dyed our hair blue and silver. We snuck a flask of bourbon into the game because we were playing Rampart. And like, so huge. Like, they had the Air Force Academy parachute team fly the game ball in with the American flag and the Air Academy flag and the Rampart flag. And so, big time. Banners everywhere. And so, me and these other two guys got blotto. And then I let Jonovan borrow my jacket because he said, dude, let me borrow your jacket. That's a cool jacket. And so I was like, yeah, okay. I gave him my jacket. The jacket had my flask in it still. And so he's walking around for half the game. He doesn't even realize that there's a flask of bourbon in there. And he reaches in and he pulls it out and it's leaking a little bit. And now he's got bourbon all over him. And his dad is like really conservative Catholic. And so he wanted to fight me because I gave him his jacket. I gave him my jacket with a bottle of bourbon in it. And so we were squared off and he was going to fucking kill me because Jonovan was an manimal. And so that night, we ended up running across the field and ripping down the Rampart sign. And there I was on the Air Academy football field for the first time. I think it was the first time. But I wasn't a player. I was a fucking hooligan. Drunk. 15-year-old. And so I ended up working out that summer with Andrew Conley. Wasn't in very good shape. Ended up on the JV team. Improved like crazy though. By the end of the year, I was kicking some ass. I was doing really well. And so going into the off season, Coach Roof took some photos of some of the JV players and gave it to the school newspaper, and the school newspaper wrote an article about the next football season, and there was my picture. And I was like, holy shit, I guess Roof wants me to be on the team. And so I trained my ass off that year, and I was excited because, wait a second, I've got a chance. This is my last chance because now I'm a senior. And so I worked my tail off with Mike May. Mike May transfers to Air Academy, shows up to class in Mrs. Ross's class with a Ponderosa letter jacket. I immediately wanted to fight him. And then I found out his last name was May. I was like, fuck. Now I have to like this guy because he's family. So that season was fucking amazing. I didn't have Gary Barnett for a coach, but I had the next best thing truly, which was Dominic Lupino. And that was just as good because he was my defensive line coach. So that season was epic. I learned how to play line in my own way. I didn't have a million tackles. I only had 5 tackles all season. but I stuffed so many trap plays. And I had a couple of really sweet big plays against Cheyenne Mountain. Knocked down a pass, third down pass, where they were going to go up on us. They were inside the 20. And I batted down a pass by Scott Sellers. And meanwhile, Barnett's at Fort Lewis. Okay, so I'm setting this up. So Barnett's at Fort Lewis. I'm starting to improve. By the way, I'm the youngest guy on the team, and I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that I'm like some of these guys. Jonovan was my age, and he was a junior. And so I didn't realize that I was a year behind some of these guys. So in my development, I was still a little bit lacking up here. I was like, am I really good enough? But I ended up walking on at Fort Lewis, even though, guess what happened? Barnett went to CU. But I was like, okay, I know Barnett recruited for Fort Lewis, so I want to check that out. So I went to Fort Lewis, and it wasn't the same. It wasn't college football. I think it was Pat Forty that told me that summer, going into my freshman year of college, he said, man, college is not the same. It's high school is the shit. And then when you get to college, it's worse than being a freshman in high school. It's like a totally different scene. And he was kind of right. So I quit football. I stopped playing football. And it's not important. That part of the story isn't important anymore, because what was happening at CU is Gary Barnett is the offensive backfields coach, offensive coordinator or something. And Barnett is part of a team that, under Bill McCartney, that slowly started competing with, I want to say 1988. And so in 88, Barnett was already there. They went 8-4. And first time that they really started to compete with Nebraska and Oklahoma. And then, so Barnett's on that team. And then 89, they go 11-1. And this is the team that had, Barnett got to coach guys like Eric Bieniemy and Darian Hagan and Mike Pritchard and all these guys. Joel Steed was on that team on defense. And I'm not saying that Barnett made those guys as good as they were, but I am. I kind of am. They would not have been the same players. Barnett was just an amazing motivator. And you don't see it here on this 89 team, because you're like, well, he's just an assistant coach. So you don't see that. Let's go to the 90 team. But then I'm about to show you what happens. 1990 team. CU ends up winning the national championship. Here it says Georgia Tech. Bullshit. Colorado wins the Orange Bowl, beats Notre Dame, and it's the 91 team, and wins the national championship. So if I go to Gary Barnett's Wikipedia, just so I can catch up here. So he is at CU until 91. And then after they win the national championship and then one more season, he is named the head coach of Northwestern. So this is where it gets fucking cool, because here's the guy, right? Gary Barnett, the guy I've been describing the whole time, that was blowing my socks off as a motivator in dozens and hundreds of kids. Goes to Northwestern. Absolutely one of the worst football programs in the country. Columbia and Northwestern. Those two schools, worst football programs in the country. We're talking like 60 games in a row that those two schools lost in the 80s, going into the 90s. And Barnett's like, yeah, I'll go there. Let me be the head coach at Northwestern. That's what I want to do. I want to go be the head coach at that school that lost 30 games in a row or whatever. So I remember this part clearly. So I'm like, okay, sweet. Because I'm from Evanston. I was born in Evanston. Northwestern's in Evanston. I'm like, holy shit, this is a sign. I don't know what the fuck it means, but it means something. So at the time, I'm working at the airport and hanging around with a lot of guys that know sports, and a little bit of gambling going on. And so Northwestern, every year, the first game of the season, they play. Let me do this. Every year for a while, they play Notre Dame, Northwestern football, 1992, right? So here's the football team from 92. So every year they play Notre Dame. And so this game right here, I get with this guy named Matt Walther at work, and I'm like, dude, I'll take Northwestern in the Notre Dame I'll take Northwestern heads up. $100. He goes, he's like, okay, what's going on here? He's reading the papers. He's looking at the line. He's looking at the betting line. I think Notre Dame was favored by 28-35. And he's like, yeah, okay, $100. Straight up, right? You got Northwestern. I got Notre Dame. I'm like, yeah. So here's what happens. I jumped the gun a little bit. 42-7, Notre Dame. But it starts getting interesting because the next season, they played Notre Dame again. And if I remember correctly, it was like 20-12 with a few minutes left. And Notre Dame again was favored by 4 touchdowns. And Northwestern did not have a good season that year. But I read an article back then about how Barnett said something about having a 4-year plan. And that makes sense because you start recruiting, the guys that you recruited aren't seniors for 4 years. And so I'm like, okay. But I still bet Matt Walther $100. I said double or nothing. Straight up. He's like, okay, whatever, dude. And so he took my $100 again. So now he's up on me $200. And so I'm just doing this because I feel like once this actually happens, it's going to be fucking cool. I wasn't even really worried about the money. And so here comes 94. First game of the season, Notre Dame, triple or nothing. And I'm going to go back on this. I think I didn't bet him for the first time until 93, to be honest with you. Because I think I get him triple or nothing. And this was probably the double or nothing game. So let me go back again. 95. This would have been the 4th year. And here's the Notre Dame game, 17-15. And so that's when I won the $300, triple or nothing. And this was the season where I've got a book. Hold on a second. 1 second. Swear to God. I'm going to have to run in the other room a couple of times. Hold on a second. This is some good shit. Hold on. it. It's in here somewhere. Don't go anywhere. All right. Son of a bitch. Anyway, somewhere I've got a book. It's called Taking the Purple to Pasadena. And so it's all about, I gotta find that book, son of a bitch. Because purple to Pasadena. I'd probably play this and get away with it.
And Jim, welcome to the Sports Voice on NUR. What's your question? Gary Barnett for Coach of the Year. Well, I think that's probably a pretty good bet.
Hey man, what's up?
Not much.
Hey man, we gonna get down here with this Purple Pride stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Now, come on.
Yeah.
How long is this?
Wildcat.
9 minutes, so I can
Northwestern
justify
Wildcat.
that. So
Northwestern Wildcat.
Come on.
I don't know about. There's Barney.
Talk to me now.
Purple Pride rise high.
I don't know about the music here, but my favorite story in the book is Barnett goes to Notre Dame when the year that they beat him 17-15, and he takes him out onto the field and he goes, "We're gonna have a special pregame practice today. This is not gonna be our normal pregame warm-up practice. Leave your pads in the bus. Come with me." They go out on the fields, Notre Dame Stadium. And he goes, "I want the running backs over there. I want the linebackers over there. I want the D-line over there. I want the offensive line in that corner. I want special teams behind me over here on the 20-yard line. I want the assistant coaches over here in this corner. And the rest of you can just stay in the middle. Now you've got your area." I'm paraphrasing, but he goes, "You got your areas. I want everybody to look for ghosts."
Gary Barnett is a man of his word. When he became head
And
coach
so
of
you can
Northwestern
imagine
in
Barnett did this a
1991,
hell of a lot better than I'm even
promised,
depicting. But
"Take the purple
so
to Pasadena."
you can imagine the team going,
basketball game my senior year in high
"Ghosts?"
school.
You know, and so he taught that team that these guys, they're playing in Notre Dame Stadium. There's no fucking ghosts in Notre Dame Stadium. They're not going to get tripped on the goal line. They're going to win if they just beat these other 22-year-old human beings at football. They don't have to deal with, they're not playing against ghosts.
Michigan highlights were greeted with applause.
Hey, quiet.
Nervous faces followed Ohio State scores. John Spagnola of ABC Sports provided live reaction from Gary Barnett during the course of the game.
That's right, Gary. Michigan's up 9, 12 minutes to go. What are you thinking?
Run the ball, use all the clock, and don't give up a big play. Keep squeezing them. We got them where they want them now.
All right, there's a little extra coaching going on here, Mark.
Anything Lloyd needs right now, I'll give it to him.
Back to Mark Jones in Ann Arbor.
The Northwestern players found themselves rooting for a Michigan team they'd beaten earlier in the season. The Wildcats' attitude was simple: go blue. Late in the game, a Michigan interception secured the victory, and the Northwestern players erupted in high fives and hugs. The Wildcats were Big Ten champs.
So that was the whole prediction that Barnett I'm quite certain that he made that prediction for his very first press conference, and everybody laughed at him. The Chicago media was like, "Ha, hilarious!" But he said he was going to take the purple to Pasadena, and that would be like taking, I don't know, the 77 Tampa Bay Bucks to the Super Bowl in 1980 or whatever. And they went to the Rose Bowl. They played against USC. They were going to either tie or they were going to end up with one. They're going to be either tied or end up within a score of USC at the end, but they missed a field goal, hit the upright. And Barnett just laughed. That's probably in here. He just couldn't. What else can you do? I imagine that he was thinking about losing his kicker in the 81 playoffs. Is the first thing that crossed my mind. It's always the kicker. It's the kicker every fucking time. So I'm watching this. I was born in Chicago. I almost got to play for Barnett. I usually tell people, yeah, I played high school football where Gary Barnett coached. And then I got to backpedal a little bit. But that's how I started out, because the guy, I was really inspired by him, and I wouldn't have played football if it wasn't for, I wouldn't have had nearly as much fun playing football if it wasn't for watching Barnett coach. Because the guy was just so much energy. It was insane. Finally got to meet him at CU. I'm going to go over the CU years here in a minute. I don't know what else they're going to cover here. How do I fast forward on this particular page? It's always different. Anyway, so Barnett goes to the Rose Bowl in 95. Here's that game against USC. It was 30. Let's see. Here it is. So where's the box score? So I'm pretty sure it was 34-32. And with about 4 minutes left, Northwestern is in position to go up 35-34. That's the way I remember it. I'm just going to go with that. And it hit the upright. Not sure that it might have been after this score. Not sure. Might have been a situation where it was going to be 41-35 and chance for an onside kick or something. I don't know. Something like that. So if I go back to Barnett and I go to the 99 Colorado football team, so he comes back after Rick Neuheisel, who's a fucking dildo. I hate Rick Neuheisel. Always hated him. He's the one that actually let Katie Nida be on the team as a kicker and got reps and everything. And so everybody at the Boulder camera or whatever was like eating it up, like, ooh, when are you going to let Katie Nida kick a field goal in a game? And Neuheisel would be like, oh, well, she's getting better, and all this shit. And so that sets up Barnett for a fucking problem, because although it was more than 4 years later when the shit hit the fan, so I'm not sure if I remember that story correctly. but I believe that Neuheisel had something to do with that. Anyway, here's his first season back at CU. So he takes over for Neuheisel, and they did okay under Neuheisel. Still hate Neuheisel. Sorry, not sorry. And then, so where they go 7-5, and so in 2000, they go 3-8. So they kind of drop back down, but he's not working with his recruits yet, is he? So he's still got work to do. Here's 2001, and they ended up 10-3. And all of a sudden, Barnett is Coach of the Year again, and beats Texas 39-37. Wins Coach of the Year, the National Coach of the Year at Northwestern, and then I believe the Big Ten Coach of the Year for this season. I don't think he won National Coach of the Year. But in my opinion, all things considered, all of that shit lumped together, Gary Barnett, there's no better football coach in the history of football. I mean, you got guys like Vince Lombardi, who ended up in the NFL and had just changed the game. But did he really have situations like Barnett had, where he went to Air Academy, installed the veer, ended up going to the state semifinals with a bunch of 160-pound kids? I mean, we had some bigger kids, but mostly 160-pound kids running around. And I was supposed to mention, so in 81, the very first message that was ever put on the message board at Falcon Stadium was, you gotta believe in quick little rich kids. And that was because somebody in the papers, I don't remember the whole story, said something that was kind of off color about how Air Academy, might have been another coach, that said, yeah, they're just a bunch of quick little rich kids over there. And so Barnett grabbed that and made it a motivational tool and put it up on the fucking message board at Falcon Stadium. And they ended up, I think they won that game. But that's what Barnett did. He found ways to motivate people, to motivate kids that I've never seen before. But this team was amazing too. This is the team that beat Nebraska 62-36 the day after Thanksgiving, November 23rd. And I know Barry Simpson was at that game. So Barry, if you're out there, you should post a photo, because I know you have a photo from that game, I think. But I think if this team, if for some reason you throw this game out, this Texas game out, CU's a national champion. I mean, this Fresno State game, that's kind of a weird one. But I don't know. I don't know who's the national champion that year. But for Barnett to do all that and then end up in a situation where I think in 2003, it might have been when Katie Nida, he told a reporter that Katie Nida, she's just not a good kicker. So stop asking me if she's going to kick in a game. Because it's not because she's a girl. It's because she's a shitty kicker. She can't kick. She misses field goals from 20 yards, or whatever he said. And so he got criticized for that. Turns out Katie Nida's dad was a fucking booster for CU. And so guess what happened? Like a season later, there's an incident at CU, something about drinking and ass grabbing or something. at a CU party after midnight that involved football players, and Barnett gets fired for it. Like, if you really knew, if everything came to the surface, if everything was visible and clear on how Barnett taught ethics and morals, and because there was a book at Air Academy that I've been told about on how to conduct yourself as a student athlete, and Barnett had all that shit down, and so there's no fucking way that he didn't have as tight a grip as you can possibly have on his team, and it still got away from him because Boulder college life, it's out of control. I don't know. I'm not making any excuses for him. He got fired. He took it like a man. He said, I'm just gonna be a color commentator. I got to meet him at Folsom Field 4 years ago, right before a game against Washington. One of the best minutes of my life. Got to shake his hand. I got to talk to him for a minute. We talked just for a minute about Air Academy. He said that he was meeting up with a bunch of guys at there's a golf tournament on the Air Force Academy, and I was just stoked because fucking awesome dude. So I don't know where we're at in terms of viewers right now, because I'm not even anywhere near Facebook right now. So let me go back. I was going to go through all of the... let me see if anybody has any questions or anything. Where are we at, yo? I'm going to go to my screen. Three comments. Let's see what they are. Yo, Carrie. There's Austin. What's up, Austin? What's up, Waston? I don't know if you're still watching, but I appreciate you coming in. And there's Andrew. So, good shit. I'm going to edit this down a little bit. I want to go back to the archives and just go over a little bit of that. Because there's some pretty good shit in here about Kadet football that we haven't covered. Hey, what the fuck? Oh, I thought I wasn't in yet. So, search. So, Barnett. I keep doxing myself. You guys are going to know where we live and everything. Oh, wait. Pay attention, Randy. First name, last name. Colorado, 1974. Shit. 1974. And what? What is this? 10 years. Colorado Springs. Gazette Telegraph. Right? Or is there different? Here. Gazette Telegraph. Kate, football? With at least one of these words, without the words, with the exact phrase. Let me see where we're at here. So if we pull up this, I think this might be in, relevancy. Let's go old to new. So here we go. So here's when Gary Barnett was an assistant. So who's talking here? What's this quote from? What's going on? That's Mike Lynch. Check this out. Hilarious. Look at that. So that's when that is when Barnett, I guess, was helping with the basketball team. So what's up, chicken legs? Mike Lynch is an awesome human being. So good deal. Good to see him. Let's see if we can find February 78. What's going on here? Local gritters to sign letters. So this is kind of interesting. Talking about Brian Sherman and where he was going to go to school. And verbal offer to New Mexico, which reminds me of another Kadet great that was going to go to New Mexico. Kirk Lister blows out his knee playing backyard soccer. I'm just saying, I don't mean to I'm not trying to dredge anything up, but what the fuck, man? I mean, did you really want to play at New Mexico? I don't know. I mean, my good buddy Calvin, he ended up playing there, and so did I said Brian Bosworth. The Bears linebacker. What the fuck? Played at New Mexico. Bears linebacker. Chicago. Bears linebacker. New Mexico. If I didn't have Google, man, I'd be Brian Urlacher. So there you go. So anyway, back to this. Let's find some game coverage here. September 78. So here's a pre-season article. September of 78, where the Kadets are rebuilding. So this is interesting. Let's read this. You hear football coaches repeatedly refer to the skill positions, those players who most often handle the ball. Normally, to be a factor in the league championship race, a team must have an ample share of players at those key positions: quarterback, running back, and ends. Air Academy finds itself woefully short of skill position people. This season, boy, was he sandbagging. But Coach Gary Barnett believes his team can still be a force in the Frontier Division of the South Central League. We lost our entire backfield too deep. We lost our entire secondary, and we lost all of our receivers. He knew better than that, said Barnett, whose Kadets went 7-3 in 77 as Frontier regular season champs. But we have a lot of kids who are capable of filling in. They just haven't had any experience on the varsity field yet. We have to expect to take some lumps early in the season, blah, blah, blah. And so the offensive linemen, Tommy Webb, David Wilson, Steve Harris, and Dean Quigley, I don't know any of those guys. But this is 78. This is when I first started watching. Those guys, linebacker Dwight Campbell, he'll be doing a job. Once again, Air Academy will use the veer offense. See, I was right. Totally fucking just remembered that. Did not look at this article. We will throw a lot this year. So I think like a rollout option throw. I know guys like the Shermans were like, they would be like 7 out of 16, but they were still considered college potential quarterbacks. So I think a lot of those passes were just like, if you don't have anything, just dump it out of bounds or something. It was like your fourth option. You got 3 options: run, pitch, pass, or just like dump it out of bounds. We will throw a lot again this year. Our philosophy is that not many high school teams are that well prepared to stop a good passing game. The Cadets will be tested early when they face rugged non-league schedule. Barnett thinks the early competition will pay benefits later. So that's the team. That's the 78 team, right? So let's see. That's September of 78. Let's follow this season a little bit. Let's at least do that. The 9th of September of 78. Here's the 11th of September. Let's see. Let's just follow this whole season. What happened here? Let's see if this was a game. Where the hell is it? Oh. Allen's block helps open the door for Doherty. So, thanks for helping me out with an awesome headline. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So it looks like Doherty beats Air Academy in this game. First game of the season. But whoever wrote this article, Terry Henyon, is a fucking moron because he just starts... what's this? He starts babbling about nothing at all. The hell? Give me a fucking score. But a defeat at this stage in the season would not spell doom for either squad. Or is this maybe... Oh, well, my bad. This is... The headline looks like a game summary, but it's not. It's a preview. So that's fucking stupid. All right. What's this? Give me a fucking, show me a score or something. I need a game summary. East loss surprises Barnett. There was no one more disappointed by Pueblo East's upset loss to Pueblo Central than Air Academy head football coach Gary Barnett. Barnett and his Cadets opened South Central League Frontier Division play Friday by hosting East, the team Barnett picked to win the division prior to the start of the season. I was totally surprised that they lost to Central. I expect them to come in here so angry, and I think they do end up losing this game. Let's see. Are none of these game summaries? Here. So here's where they beat Pueblo East 10-6. So that's cool. This is when they're 3-2, 5 games into the season. So that's how many game summaries I can find. So this is where they beat Pueblo East 10-6. And if I skim it, I'm not seeing really too many names. Running the outside veer to near perfection, the Cadets dominated a scoreless second half, allowing East to gain possession of the ball only twice in the first 24 minutes. So a veer, like a ball control, possession kind of a scheme. Air Academy's 10 points in the first half proved to be the difference. We felt like we can control the line offensively, said Barnett. Our line played exceptionally well, both offensively and defensively. The Kadet defense cracked only once in the game. East Jerry Salazar scored. Kadets marched 90 yards and 16 plays to pay dirt. Lee Tilton got the touchdown. All right, so let's go back. So they're 3-2 after 5 games. And the next weekend, they lose to Wasson, 35-28. This isn't the no, this isn't the referee game, of course, because that was late in the season. But here's a game where, look at that helmet. That's right before we went to the Derrick style, which is my favorite. But those big numbers, check that shit out. I think we still had these pants in '84. So anyway, so at this point, I guess we're 3-3. Or 4-3. In 78. So it does look like 78 ended up being a bit of a reload. Where's our... It should say Air Academy is now 4-3 or whatever the fuck. Here we go. Wasson's 5-1. Air Academy is 3-3. But I think they ended up going on a tear. Let's find out. 28th of October. Frustrating season. 20-15 loss, so now we're 3-4. I don't even want to watch the 78 season anymore. Let's go to another season. August of 79. Let's go right to 80. I'm a bandwagoner. What can I tell you? I want to see that 80 team. June of 80. August of 80. Let's see what this is. 3rd of September, so this might be a preview. Mullen's greatest asset performance under pressure. We watched the scrimmage. They looked better to us overall than last year, said Barnett. Mullen was one of the teams to beat. Still are, I think. See, 2 years ago. See, this is 80. And we beat Mullen in 78, 37-33. So I guess I bailed out on the 78 season too quick. Here's the schedule. So let's go back. Go to the next week. Fourth of September. How to predict South Central League football after just 1 week. Coach of the Year. So he's already predicting Gary Barnett. So that's the kind of status he already had. Defensive Player of the Year, preseason, Air Academy, Chet Ringler. All right, let's keep scrolling here. 12th of September. Let's see if this is a summary. So here's where Doherty beat, Air Academy beat Doherty 29-13. I don't think the fumble was a pivotal play. Our kids were just playing around then, It got our intensity back, though. So, Cadets 29, Spartans 13. Doherty didn't really have too many really good teams back then, I don't think. So that's a good score. Let's go to the next week. This is 5 days later. Ralph Roughton. Love it. One of the best sports writers ever. Great human being. Gary Barnett has put together perhaps the most sophisticated high school offense in prep football anywhere, period. So there you go. Ralph Roughton knows. That may be saying a lot, but more than a few local people who come from all over the nation believe it. One coach at a local high school, who for obvious reasons does not need to be identified, echoed the same compliment about the Air Academy the offense last Thursday night. The Cadets don't have all the talent in the world by any means. They have some marginal college prospects on their offense, and the entire starting lineup is filled with good, solid high school players. Barnett simply does a tremendous job of putting the talent to maximize use. So there you go. Ralph Roughton was fantastic human being. I think he's still around. Ralph, take care of yourself if you're out there. Let's go back. Let's see where we go with the season. So everybody kind of knew that was going to be a championship season for Air Academy. Air Academy puts on a show. 49-20 beats Wasson by 4 touchdowns. I told the kids after the game that it was the finest job of execution by high school kids since I've been at this high school. We had such total balance. That's what we've been shooting for. And so the caption under this photo, Cadets Jeff Hillstrom. I think I'm Facebook friends with Jeff Hillstrom. Pretty sure. I think Jenny Hillstrom is his sister. Pretty sure. And she ran the newspaper. What's the name of that newspaper? Anyway. Cadets Jeff Hillstrom works for good yardage against Wasson defense. Jay Kennedy blocks the immediate path into Thunderbird territory. I've said from the very beginning that Kevin Sherman, I guess, can throw better than Steve Vogel. He's got a much quicker release than Vogel. Kevin did an excellent job of finding the open man tonight, and then he got the ball to him. Our defensive coaches came up with a great game plan. We wanted to get their quarterback. We had to string out the option, and we had to force them to turn it up early. We got such tremendous play out of our defense. Air Academy now 2-0, plays host a wide field next Friday. We've just got to keep getting better. So not a lot of really super interesting quotes from that game, but they destroyed Wasson, that's for sure. All right, what's next? This probably isn't a game summary, but for years, Air Academy football coach Gary Barnett had his offense line up in the veer. Most of the time, the Cadets just used the veer as a way to arrange themselves before dropping back to pass. In other years, the Cadets have used their veer simply as a staging area for an all-out ground assault. Rarely have the Cadets employed all of the intricate aspects of the veer at the same time. And that's what I was saying before about I didn't think that they really ran the kind of veer triple option that Air Force ran in the 70s and 80s, where you had an obvious sweep option where you would run down the line, quarterback had the ball, tailback he would fake the dive to the fullback, run down the line, pitch it to the tailback or keep it and turn upfield. I don't think it really looked like that, but they definitely had options. It was similar. I would love to see old films of that. I was never worried about him stepping in and doing the job, said Barnett, and he's talking about Sherman again. No, he's talking about Vogel, so now he's reminiscing. I don't want to sound full of praise for Kevin. Now he's talking about Sherman. But he's an all-American boy. He's got good student, and he's a good student. He's a gentleman. A lot of that comes from his family, especially his older brothers and his father. And so Kathleen would love to hear that. I think I'm still Facebook friends with Kathleen. If she didn't block me, I wouldn't blame you if you did. But because I'm kind of crazy. It's not always the best Facebook friend, the really crazy fuckers. Anyway, Kevin Sherman's got great acceleration when he gets to the corner. That's what makes him so tough to stop. He's also got great football instincts that other kids don't have. So this is kind of a preview article, even though the season already started. Page 5. Let's see what this is. There's the Derrick helmets. Look at that. Nothing more beautiful than that. Look at that. Look at those unis. Holy shit. Anyway, gorgeous football uniform. There were only 6 seconds left in the first half when Air Academy split in Neil Brown in that curious stiff-legged jog of his. There's Brown right there, 83. Headed for his position at the Coronado 16, Kadet quarterback Kevin Sherman had called Brown's favorite pattern the post corner, but Brown expected he'd have to run around several Cougar defenders to get open. When he looked up, though, there was a lone Coronado cornerback between him and the goal. Oh, I used the word though in the wrong inflection, so it made the sentence sound completely different. I apologize. Brown drove straight at the cornerback, muscled him to the inside, and shot straight for the flag in the corner of the end zone. Sherman hit him with a perfectly timed strike with only 1 second left in the half. Later, Barnett said it's going to take a pretty good team to beat us. I thought our offensive line had one heck of a game. They controlled the line of scrimmage. So just generic quotes usually. But when you think about Barnett, hey, no barking over there. Hey, look at me. Hey, how am I supposed to run a TV show with a dog barking in the background? Does that have to be one of my disasters? Hey, shh. Anyway, so Air Academy beats Coronado. All right, come here. You're going to be on TV now. There you go. Oh, you're on TV. She hates this. There. Why are you so stiff? Don't be so stiff. That's the microphone. So now she's interested. All right. So I don't know if I can read with you up here, but I'm going to try. Here's the next week. East ground game stifled. Air Academy rumbles 35-0. East forced us to play basic defense tonight. We just let the kids play football instead of throwing a lot of exotic schemes. No barking. Do you want your collar? You don't want that, do you? We knew that he would be the thrust of their attack, so he's talking about one of the other players on the other team. East forced us to play. I already said that. Our offense has spent so much time on the field that people really haven't had much of a chance to see what our defense can really do. All right. What's this? What's going on here? Air Academy routs Palmer, 48-7. Not much more to say about that. They gave us good field position. The offensive line came off the ball very well. They gave us a lot of room to run. So we destroyed Palmer 48-7. I think I saw the word slaughter just now as I closed the page. Is this the next week? Here's a good picture. Look at that. Look at that. Look at those unis. Look at the stripes. So here's a preview of the Centennial game, I think is what this is. So this is Air Academy 7-0 going to Centennial 6-1. And so here's what Barnett had to say. We're playing in Pueblo, so we're behind already. I know that feeling. We lost to Centennial in Dutch Clark Stadium. That was fucking crazy. I mean, there was probably 4,000 people there. The stadium, the bleachers just keep going at Dutch Clark Stadium. I think they go past the clouds, the moon, heaven, and then there's the press box. If Centennial unfurls its usual tricks, it might as well be their homecoming game or Halloween or something, is what he was trying to say. This game means as much to us as it does to them. If they say they're going to turn the intensity screw up a half notch, we're going to give it a full turn. Our kids really are looking forward to going down there. It really should be a good game. We can't wait to get it going. So let's find out what happens. Here is 2 days later. Is this the post? Here it is. Here's the headline speaks for itself. Cadets Club Bulldogs, as the 1980 Air Academy football team did do on many occasions. And hey, check it out. In Unks, we have an Unks sighting. So he was an assistant coach under Barnett for a while. Ended up at Rampart. Air Academy coach Gary Barnett didn't want his team to pass, but thought he might have to. Kadet defensive coach Rick Unks took a look at a running back named Ford. More on that later, and had a better idea. Unks persuaded Barnett to call a draw play to Mark Ford with just 5 minutes left in the game. Mark Ford was such a fucking badass. Unbeaten Air Academy clinging to a 28-18 lead at the time over Pueblo Centennial. Barnett did. Ford rambled 45 yards for a touchdown, a score that not only clinched the 34-18 win, but gave the Cadets the South Central League Century Division title. I just didn't have a feeling at all on that one. So there's credit to Unks. Barnett endures tough week too. This has been the big week, the short week and the scary week, all for Barnett. Not only did Air Academy head football coach have to prepare his unbeaten team for his Thursday night division showdown against Centennial, but he also had one less day to get the job done. Early Monday morning, Barnett was thinking about anything but football. He was in the hospital emergency room and a very alarmed and shook up patient. He was having spasms and numbness in his right leg and didn't know why. He still doesn't for certain. At the hospital, tests including a venogram were run to determine the cause of Barnett's problem. If he was lying on one side, the results were positive, indicating the possibility of blood clots in the leg. On the other side, the results were negative, blah, blah, blah. So this sounds familiar. I think I remember something like this. I might have even read this article some time ago. Let's see. This is November 2nd. So what happens here? This is when... Look at this. A mud game. That's nice, because we had a mud game against Sierra. So Air Academy proved it can move the ball in the mud by waltzing over Harrison 33 to 12. At this time, they're ranked number 2 in the state. We just went flat in the second half, so he's complaining already, that sounds like Barnett. Like we should have done better. All right. 9th of November. So we're getting into the playoffs. Gary Barnett and his kadet football team had the kind of luck Saturday for which compulsive gamblers live. Not only did the Cadets manhandle Doherty 33-7 in South Central League playoff game. Doherty made the playoffs that year? But they also won a pair of very important coin flips. Air Academy beat the odds by defeating Mitchell for the number 1 South Central League berth, then winning a toss with Grand Junction for a home field advantage. Now, is this when we get to play at Falcon Stadium? Is that what happens here? I don't think the incentive of being number 1 has much to do with the way we play. I really believe just getting out and playing is all these kids need. So that's November 9th. Let's go to November 11th. Where are we at? Where's the playoff game? This is a preseason article. What's this? Air Academy sheds the Kadet choke. The Air Academy Cadets flushed with their 20-0 victory over Grand Junction, but chilled to the bone from the wintry air, huddled in the concrete pillbox at the north end of the field. I love that pillbox. That's my little home. I love that little fucking warehouse. Head coach Gary Barnett, as his custom, was reviewing his team's performance and saying the words which would bolster the confidence of his players for the future battles. Suddenly, a cacophony of shouts erupted from inside the building. The sliding door opened and Barnett stepped out, a tape-covered, noose-shaped item in his hand. What? Whoa! Imagine that in 2020. He glanced at his team, uttered a seemingly timely expletive, and hurled the object over the building into the brush on the other side. He slipped back into the building, the door slammed it shut, and the walls shook with the cheers from the Cadets. When reporters entered the building moments later to interview the Kadet coach, he somewhat sheepishly revealed what it was he was so emphatically sent sailing through the late afternoon sky. That was the Kadet choke. See, this is what Barnett did. He had gimmicks and fucking stories and shit. So he just threw away a noose, which if you had a noose in a locker room in 2020, oh my God, you would be triple fired and then ass raped. Because ass rape is much less worse than tying a rope in the shape of a noose in 2020. It's perfectly fine, ass rape. That's, like, to be expected. But don't do anything with a rope that looks like anything. I mean, because don't get me started. Wait, what is this? Barnett and his players began to hear other coaches, players, and the press refer to such lackluster postseason play as the Kadet choke. Oh, when the Cadets led Cherry Creek 21.5 halftime in last year's first-round playoff game, I get it now. Only to lose 30-21, Air Academy detractors simply put their hands to their throats and knowingly nodded another choke. So Barnett said, "Fuck you, it's over now. All right, so that was the second round of the playoffs in 1980. Here's a preview. And I think this is the recap. Air Academy defense steals the show in a 20-0 victory over Lakewood. So is this her second 20-0 game in a row? Defensive back Jim Jeffers, I believe the older brother of Jeff Jeffers, not sure, single-handedly ruined the passing statistics of Lakewood quarterback Mike Powell as the crafty 5'11", 170-pound senior collected a pair of interceptions. His steals came only minutes apart in the fourth quarter, the second setting up a 62-yard touchdown pass from Gavin Sherman to wide receiver Don Albrandt. Jeffers is very intense competitor, said Barnett. He is a very intense competitor. We just got, he just doesn't get down. He doesn't let down either. Fuck, I can't talk. So they beat Lakewood. So now they're in the semifinals. A lot of playoff games in the early 80s. I mean, was it like 16 teams? Here it is. Here's the Falcon Stadium game. Cadets ride second shutout into semifinals. That's the Lakewood game. Was this the Falcon Stadium? Maybe this was the game at Falcon Stadium. Blah, 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 blah. After his Cadets had made it to the Class 5A semifinal Saturday with a methodical 20-0 shackling of upset-minded Lakewood before a Falcon Stadium crowd of 4,000 plus, Air Academy head coach Gary Barnett admitted a changed outlook on a playoff strategy. I read where some coach, I think it was Mitchell's Jim Hartman, said the defense wins championships. That makes a lot of sense now. Every week gets tougher and tougher. We've thought defense was a strength for us all year long. Now it has to be. So I guess that was the... look at these uniforms. Did I mention? So then, after Thanksgiving, was the semifinal game against... Is this it? This is a preview article. Cadets taste defeat of Thomas Jefferson. So here's the Thomas Jefferson game where we lost 14-12. So this was after we lost the kicker and then we missed 2 extra points. And so I think this was the season that's considered to be the team that just couldn't fucking lose. But they did. Anyway, so good shit. So I'm going to edit this down a little bit. If you're still watching, appreciate you. Please do me a favor. Check out my YouTube channel. Subscribe. Like a few videos. Like this video. Click this video. There's like one of these. Click that motherfucker. I'm trying to make this monetized. I want to be able to talk about sports, politics, music, television, movies, dogs, cats, elephants, relationships, beer, wine. Just kidding about the wine. I don't know anything about wine. High school football, Florida, Wisconsin, Colorado. So I want to get this channel seen. And the only way to really do that is to trick YouTube into thinking that people want to fucking watch this shit. And so the only way to really do that is to actually watch it. Because I guess they have something called algorithms. And that's like a way to measure people going like, duh, and watching shit. They know, which is fucking scary. I don't think I can throw this into the outro without cutting off the feed. But thank you for watching. It's been over 2 hours. That's pretty much my maximum anyway. What the fuck time is it? It's 8:30. Time to for a little snack and a little bit of Murder, She Wrote. And I'm going to try to upload this fucking video to YouTube. And have a good night. I'm going to tack the outro onto this, I think, at the end. But I can do this. I can add this right now. Thank you for watching. Good night.